Hey guys, welcome to Shock Surplus. I'm Sean.
I'm Jeff.
We've got Jeff's Silverado here. It's got 40,000 miles on it. We're gonna go over 10 different sets of shocks today. Jeff, you're on set number 5 or 6 on your Silverado right now, right?
Yeah, we're on set 6 right now on the truck.
And ever since the beginning, we immediately got to upgrading your shocks, right?
Yes.
I know right off the bat, a lot of you guys might be here because you're kind of thinking about Bilstein, Fox, Eibach, King, what it all means, or if maybe you just want to level out your vehicle and you're considering, a very inexpensive spacer solution, or maybe you're thinking, hey, do I use a shock to level out the truck? Well, right off the bat, we've done all of that before, and there's pros and cons to using a spacer or going with shocks. We've used Bilstein, we've used Rancho Quicklifts, Fox 2.0 snap rings. We haven't used the Eibach Pro Truck shocks themselves, but we have used the coilovers, and so we'll get into the differences a little bit down the line in the video. You're free to hop around on that timeline and bookmarks. But before we get into all the nitty-gritty details, a quick little, maybe just give us the cliff notes on these options you've ran, very popular options for leveling kits. We'll start with the first upgrade, which was the quick lifts.
So quick lifts, if you like your OEM ride but want adjustability, those are the move. They're just a little bit too soft for me.
And then you went to the Bilstein 5100s, and these are adjustable height by the circlip to give you either factory height or up to about 1.8 inches is the official height for these.
On the 14 to 18, it's 1.85.
Okay.
19 and up, you get up to 2.5 inches.
How'd those feel?
Those are my favorite. Firm but supportive, but some people might be too firm.
And then you went to the Fox 2.0 snap rings.
Fox 2.0s were comfortable, but I just like a little bit more of a firmer ride. But I think this is going to suit a lot of people that are looking for an improved ride quality over Ranchos.
And these use the factory springs. You're going to need a coil spring compressor for both Bilstein and the 2.0 snap rings. And then how are the Eibach? These are like the new player to the scene. How'd those feel?
Eibachs are going to say in the middle of 2.0 and the Bilstein 5100s. Threaded body, nice, easy to adjust.
And did you ever consider going with a strut spacer?
I did not.
There's some pros being inexpensive, super cheap. You don't need to take your assembly apart. Spacers usually just sit, this is your normal top mount. Spacers will just sit on that to give you either a 1/2 inch, an inch, up to 3 inches. We don't recommend going a 3-inch if you want any kind of performance gain off-road. If it's a daily driver, that'll work just fine for you, inexpensive and whatnot. But if you're looking to get any added performance and you off-road a lot, rock crawl a lot, spacers are pretty detrimental to your shock travel as a whole. So decent, but we talk a lot about why leveling your vehicle through the spring, through an adjustable height collar is the better way to go for shock longevity and suspension geometry and performance. If you guys have more questions on that option, we'll definitely can dive into that later. Do any of these options, including the strut spacer, need a new upper control arm to ride well?
So if you're just leveling your truck, upper control arms aren't needed, but they definitely won't hurt.
Gotcha. And these are the beefiest upper control arms you can get. You don't need to spend $1,400 if you want them. There's a lot cheaper options, the $500 price range. But we'll dive into exactly what new upper control arms mean when we get to the high performance options down the line in this video. And while we do have a 2020 1500 back here, it's got the 3.0 Duramax in it. The shock behaviors that we're talking about here across all the brands, they are going to feel the same whether you got a 2015, a 2009, a crew cab, an extended cab, a long bed, a 2-wheel drive or a 4-wheel drive. The behaviors across all these models and vehicles from 2007 to, we're in 2024 right now. Wow, we're old. It's going to behave across all those vehicles, and you can even apply. You're going to be able to apply this to the Sierra 1500, all the different trims. Some of this also spills over to your Chevy Suburban and your Tahoe because the geometry and design and weights of all these GM half-ton vehicles is all basically not identical, but the shocks how it behaves, you can kind of depend on it, being pretty broad across all those vehicles. More recently, though, is the Trail Boss and the AT4, which is actually a unique trim from GM, and those are coming with, 2 inches of lift over factory. Tell us a little bit about Trail Boss, AT4, and how some of these entry-level shocks and higher-end stuff kind of fits into those.
So the Trail Boss and the AT4s, those came 2 inches higher from the factory than the non-Trail Boss trucks. Still use the same suspension geometry, same control arms, same uppers and lowers. Bilstein does make Trail Boss and non-Trail Boss specific 5100 and 6112. And Fox, King, and Icon 2.5 series, the Fox 2.0s won't fit a Trail Boss, but Fox, King, and Icon 2.5s are options for you to lift your Trail Boss even further from that 2 inches of lift.
Does the Trail Boss come with different engine weights, or is it all one engine on that model?
So up until 2022, the Trail Boss came with just the 6.2 option, and then from 23 and up, they were offered with the 3.0. So that is a difference between the Trail Boss and the non-Trail Boss specific stuff. So like the 6112s for a non-Trail Boss truck, if you look at their sheet, the 6112s will only provide up to 2 inches of lift on a non-Trail Boss truck equipped with a 6.2 or a 3.0 Duramax. If you want more than 2 inches of lift on a non-Trail Boss truck with those engines, you would want to get the Trail Boss specific 6112s. That will be able to get you up to 3.2 inches of lift, but you are going to need an upper control arm for that.
Gotcha. That's a mouthful, and we're going to have a blog post that outlines all these details for you guys just to click right through and understand engine weights, cab sizes, trims, and all that, and what shocks provide what lift for you guys. So check that out in the description, or ask in the comments, because we'll answer up for sure. Now we're going to dive in to all of these 10 shock options, starting with the baseline Rancho shocks that come on this vehicle. We've got the stock Rancho shocks here that just came off a Silverado, and the way we understand, or one of the reasons why we want to talk about this real quick, is because it serves as a comparison for how we think about the rest of these shocks. In my impression, yes, the Rancho 5000, these aren't normal Rancho RS9000Xs that they have for aftermarket options. These are spec'd by GM. Rancho and Tenneco make them, so it's almost unfair to call them a Rancho RS5000, but that's not really the point here. The point here is to kind of give you an idea of what we think about the factory ride, and to me, comfortable, yes. Sloppy, yes.
Very.
Yeah, what do you think?
Very, very, very sloppy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It felt like people talk about their car riding like a Cadillac, and it felt like I was driving a Cadillac with 20,000-year-old shocks. They're just bouncy, soft. I knew right away that getting rid of those was going to be one of my first things to do with the truck.
Well, one of the things that just stands out in my mind is driving up, when I drove the truck right at the beginning, driving up the driveway out in front of the shop and just being like, what the heck? It just like wouldn't stop, like jiggling back and forth. I'm like, oh my God, we have to get some new shocks immediately. So in our opinion, these are, yes, they're comfortable, yes, they're soft, but they're good for people that don't expect much from your vehicle. If you're just tossing stuff in the back and you're just commuting all day long and it's a lease, they'll be fine. But now we'll show you just how much of a difference new shocks can make for your truck. We've got the Rancho Quick Lift here, and these run about $650 for the set of 4, which means 2 front quick lift units and 2 rear shocks. One of the standout features is their adjustability here. It's a compression damping adjustment knob, 10 settings or 9 settings. Basically affects how firm bump response is with your vehicle. It doesn't really affect rebound. They say it does, but in my experience, that hasn't been the case. What did you think of when you ran these on the Silverado?
I thought they were a little bit too soft for me. I ran them on the 9 setting. They're comfortable for sure. What I liked about them was they used OEM mounts, top and OEM bottom mounts. So install was super easy. I think if you like that OEM ride quality, but you don't want to use spacers and you want to use a proper lift strut, this is going to be the perfect way to go for you.
They also have an RS5000 version of this now that we've never ran before, but a little bit more budget friendly if you don't want the adjustability or you've heard bad things about the adjustability. My own experience on the adjustability running the RS9000s is this thing gets stuck frequently. If you're in winter, a lot of salt, this thing is going to get stuck. This knob frequently falls off and we frequently have to ship a lot of them out to people. But other than that though, I thought comfortable as well, but probably wouldn't be my first choice as an upgrade.
No.
Next up, we've got the Bilstein 5100, extremely popular all over the forums. I'm sure you guys have heard about these quite a bit. These things run about $475, give or take, for a set of 4. I'm sure you could find them cheaper, but that's our price for our awesome customer service. One of the main features here is the circlip setting. Bilstein was the first one to do this and why it's so popular. You got numerous height settings on this shock, so where you can run at factory height, 1/2 inch of lift, 1.5 inches, 2.5 inches of lift at the max height on the 19 and ups. Earlier models might see a little bit less lift. Check the description and it'll kind of outline exactly how much lift to expect out of these. One big feature that you can't see here is 100,000 miles out of these shocks, maybe even more. Tons of customers buy these shocks, set it and forget it. 8 years later, shocks are still working great, and then they buy a new set of Bilstein for their new vehicle. So these German engineering, the highest level of manufacturing you can get on a shock absorber, these things last incredibly long. So what would you feel about these when they went on the vehicle?
These are probably my favorite out of the bunch on the table here.
Yeah.
I've said it a lot. I feel like these should have came on a factory off-road package on the truck. They are a bit firm, but with that firmness comes support, better handling, better towing feel. So if you're doing towing, if you're hauling anything for work, you should have these on your truck.
Yeah, and when we say firm, sporty, we mean like, great response with that steering wheel. You know where the vehicle's going. There's no body sway before the action happens. It's a little bit of a sports car feel. Some people say, online might be saying they're too stiff or they're too harsh or too firm. It's people spending money on shocks, maybe expect that Cadillac ride upgrade, but Bilstein is very much not that. Bilstein is the sporty, performance-oriented shock that gives you extremely long life. We like them a lot. A lot of people here like them a lot. So just weigh the public forum reviews before taking into account what kind of shock you expect. Huge fan of Bilstein here, and we've ran these on a lot of vehicles. Next up, we've got the Fox 2.0 snap rings, and these are pretty new. I'm sure a bunch of you probably actually haven't heard of these because the 2.0 coilovers is what gets all the mention and the referrals and the talk of the town. But this is the 2.0 snap ring is basically, it is the same shock as the 2.0 coilover, but it's more along the lines of the Bilstein 5100 adjustable height circlip settings. These things run about $900 for the set of front and rear. You will need a coil spring compressor to get your factory spring onto these, but also adjustable in height. These also have a aluminum body versus Bilstein steel body. And aluminum body is great, sheds heat faster. It's more rust resistant, not as corrosion resistant, but we're getting in the weeds here. And aluminum body, while it sheds heat fast, most people on this shock aren't too worried about fade on a shock like this and on a package like this. But these can be rebuilt. So 30,000 miles down the line, 60, 70,000 miles down the line, when they get a little bit too squishy, that usually means their nitrogen pressure is kind of waning. Maybe there's a little bit of leakage, but these can be rebuilt. We can service them here, make them just like new. So this is a good investment for the long-term life of your truck if you want this kind of entry-level performance package. What did you think about these when they went on the truck?
So I felt like these were just as comfortable on the road as the Ranchos were. They felt great. Where they really shined was when we went off the pavement into the dirt. The Fox 2.0s, they just had more support than the Ranchos did. Even though they, on road, they felt just as comfortable and just as smooth. And the biggest difference between the Fox 2.0s and the Ranchos was their rebound control. Or the Fox 2.0s, their valving and their tuning have way better rebound control than the Ranchos did. So you don't get that pogo stick effect when you go over bumps, like when we go over the speed bump or out of a driveway onto the main road, where you normally get the I guess, the oscillation
That
from the
sloppy-
Ranchos.
That sloppy feel.
Yeah, that's gone with the Fox 2.0s.
The next up is the Fox 2.0 coilover, and these are very, very similar to the snap ring. These do come fully assembled just like this out of the box, so much easier installation of the 2.0 coilover or the 2.0 snap ring. These are about $1,100, $1,200 for a set of 4. That's because the front snap ring shocks, they're about $250 each. The front coilovers here are about $450, maybe $499 each now. We're in 2024, so prices are outrageous. Sorry, guys. One of the major differences here between the snap ring and the coilover is the threaded body here. So the height adjustment to your truck is usually set at about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of lift out of the box, just like this. And you can either reduce tension on this coil spring to reduce your ride height, or further increase tension on this coil spring to lift the ride height up. Fox typically says don't go higher than 2 or 2.5 inches of lift on the setup. I know some people technically have increased that preload a little bit too much just because they want 3 inches of lift. Highly not recommended, but if you're just a daily driven parking lot queen, then it might work for you, right? These also rebuildable, just like the snap rings. Definitely a solid option. This is the most popular option because it's easier to install. Don't need a compressor. You can do it in your driveway. All the same recommendations kind of apply to snap ring and which customer it's for. Definitely great off-road performance. A little bit different of a coil spring. So, much different, a different coil spring rate on these coilovers versus your factory spring rate. How that comes into play, not that big of a difference usually from what we've seen. Usually this decision here is based on, I want to install it myself in my driveway. This other one over here is usually, I'm on a budget and my shop isn't going to be charging me too much on using a compressor and getting into my vehicle, but both virtually identical in ride quality on and off-road. Now we've got the Eibach Pro Truck coilovers, and these guys come in about the same price as the 2.0 Fox 2.0s, $1,150, $1,200 for a set of 4. If you want the matching rear reservoirs, that'll probably bump the price up another $200. But a lot of similarities to the Fox 2.0 coilovers, but one big difference is the steel body, but it also is threaded. So you can increase or decrease your ride height on the shock itself. Also comes with a spanner wrench to make that happen while on the vehicle, but I'll let you talk about, you've made a lot of adjustments and these actually just came off your vehicle, so maybe tell us about that.
Yeah, I've had these probably the longest out of everything that we've tested. Out of the box, they were a little bit low for the 3-liter Duramax. I think I ended up at about 1.25 inches of total lift. So yeah, definitely this spanner wrench made it super easy to adjust while they're on the truck. You got to lift the truck up, get the tires off. But I was able to preload the collar while it was still on the truck, super easy. I actually did it while I was getting my tires swapped out.
Oh, nice.
Over down the street. As far as ride feel goes, ride quality goes, I would say these are right in the middle of the Fox 2.0s and the Bilstein 5100s. They offered a little bit more support than the Fox 2.0s, but didn't feel as harsh as the Bilstein 5100s. I would say if you do light towing or you want a sportier feel, but you also don't want something that is going to cause you to feel everything on the road, I think this is going to be the move for you.
Nice. Adjustment while on the truck is a big thing. A lot of people kind of scared about the height and whatnot where it's at out of the box. You can't adjust Bilstein 5100 on the truck. You can't adjust the snap rings, the Fox 2.0 snap rings on the truck. You shouldn't probably adjust the 2.0 coilovers on the truck. The Rancho quick lifts, you can't adjust the height whatsoever. That's a very standout kind of feature set for a coilover, adjustable on the truck, won't damage the threaded body, significant height gain from these as well. I think Eibach has been one of the most surprising shock for us over the past 16, 18 months because we ran these on the Silverado, on the Bronco, on the Ranger, tons of good feedback, and balanced is our word of the day when we're talking about Eibach. Like them a lot. Regarding warranties, all of these shocks do have warranties. Rancho's got a limited lifetime. Bilstein's got limited lifetime. Fox only has a 1-year warranty, and Eibach's got a 1,000,000-mile warranty. That doesn't really tell the whole picture though, because a lot from our experience, People think they've got warranty issues on the Rancho quick lifts, when in reality, it's actually just poor shock performance. Meaning that, you know, what we see a lot is on potholes and on speed bumps, you'll sometimes get real harsh performance out of this. And we've seen countless people replace those shocks, brand new ones, and nothing changes. That's a scary thought. So keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind here is with Fox's 1-year warranty. For some reason, the warranty claims on Fox 2.0s are really quite the loudest, unfortunately. On one hand, they're a performance shock. They're meant to be pushed hard, and when you do, you know, sometimes stuff happens. Getting these things, but if you're having a leaky shock outside of the year-long period, we can rebuild them. We frequently do rebuild them. You can send them to Fox to be rebuilt for about 75 bucks, but then you're gonna be out of a vehicle if you don't get a core charge. If you're buying Fox 2.0s and you're spending 600 bucks, 700, 800 bucks on shocks, we'd highly suggest getting product protection, whether that's Clyde, whether that's Extend, whether you buy it from us or not. Get an extra year of warranty, because it's one of those things where we hear a lot of people at the 14-month, 16-month, 18-month ownership, and they're complaining about their failing shocks already. So do a little bit, go that little extra mile. If you're spending 800 bucks, spend 900 bucks. Get a whole extra year of warranty to really cover your butts here. And like we said, we can rebuild these. We usually rebuild these things for about 100 bucks. Quick turnaround time. We get core charge going so that you're not out of a vehicle. We really want to take care of anyone with warranty claims here. That's one of our big goals last year and this year, is make the warranty process extremely seamless, extremely fast, because we know you guys need your vehicles. I haven't personally seen an Eibach warranty issue just yet. Not very many at all from Bilstein, and it does happen every once in a while, but you know, our prerogative here with customer service, you're running customer service, right? Yep. How fast do we make warranty replacements happen?
Within 2 days.
Yeah. Try to get it out to you super quick. Closest warehouse, get them there. We'll worry about that failing piece getting back to us whenever that happens. So keep an eye out for warranties, because they do play a part in the ownership and the lifespan of the vehicle. If you guys need more than 2 or 2.5 inches of lift, we know a lot of you guys are shooting for a 3-inch lift, which isn't actually required to fit 33s or 34s on your Silverado. But if you do need that extra 1/2 inch, there are spacers available like this that you can put on top of your shock tower and get you that extra 1/2 inch without really affecting much. If you're going for that much lift on a kind of an entry level or a budget leveling kit option, you don't have to worry about performance too much. This does kind of affect your total droop travel in your suspension, but like I said, if you're not really off-roading too hard, doing anything too crazy, it's not going to affect ride quality really that much. You have anything to add about spacers and the use of spacers?
No, I mean, it's just a cheap, simple solution that most people could do at home. And what you lose or what you gain from this is just, you'll lose this much compression travel. Your tire won't be able to go up as high.
Gotcha. Yep.
So that's something to consider.
Inexpensive solution, gain more height, just be beefier on the street. Now we've got 2.5-inch shocks on the table now. We've got 5 different versions here, but when we start talking about 2.5-inch bodies, 3.0 bodies, we're talking about performance shocks. We're not talking about like shocks that are going to make you even more comfortable than what you already have. So many people are surprised when they buy a $3,000 suspension package or a $4,000 suspension package, and the ride to them got worse because they were expecting more comfort, more plushness, that pillowy ride. But these performance shock packages mean that your handling gets tighter, especially on the pavement. These kind of shocks are really meant for in the dirt, you're going fast, and it's meant to keep your tires on the ground. So the damping is just, there's a lot more valving in these shocks to keep traction, keep control, and traction, control are the top 2 priorities. Comfort is like the third. We're not worried about comfort too much. Yeah, you can custom tune any of these shocks to be more comfortable on the street, but if that's what you're looking for, I probably wouldn't be shopping something like this. These things are meant to go fast, aggressive drivers, give your vehicle a lot of control, and to give you, the driver, a lot of confidence. One of the brand new standout options over the past few years now, I think we've been assembling these things for 3 years now,
Yeah.
are the Bilstein 6112s. And so these are basically a beefier version of the 5100s that we went over before. It's a 2.6-inch body, 60 millimeter piston, so significantly more damping surface volume inside the shock, meaning the piston's bigger, a lot more support. This shock basically does everything that the Bilstein 5100 does, but just a lot easier. It's just like having bigger muscles when you're around the weight room. Similar in function, you know, you got adjustable height circ clips. There's more circ clip settings on the 6112s versus the 5100s. These don't come assembled like this out of the box. We offer an assembly service here at Shock Surplus that will put new top hats on with the springs that come included in the kit at your chosen height setting, so that way when you get that package at home, you can install it right away yourself, or of course take it to the mechanic. But the price is usually a wash. If you're going to take it to an auto shop, you might save some money and you don't need assembly, and just buy them as is, no assembly, and usually that's going to save you a few bucks, give or take, depending on the labor rates at your shop. But also limited lifetime warranty, extremely bulletproof. We heard that you really got to push these things up to 400, 500 degrees and before these things actually explode off-road. And we're going to tell you right now, none of you guys are going to get that hot.
No way.
You just put these on your truck. How do they feel out the gate?
So out the gate, so we replaced the Eibach Pro Truck coilovers with these. Right out the gate around our little test loop that we have. I just noticed a lot more mid-speed support, going over like speed bumps, going into driveways at 15, 20 miles an hour. Like you just feel a lot more support going through that. It's confidence inspiring. We haven't taken it out to the dirt yet. KOH is coming up and we're going to be testing them out there.
Yeah, King of the Hammers is coming up next week. I can't wait to see what these things do. Do you need upper control arms when you're running the 6112?
No, so upper control arms aren't needed unless what we did with my truck is we put on the 6112s from a Trail Boss, and we had them set at the what they call the 1.2 setting. When we taped it out on my truck, I actually got 3.2 inches of lift from what a stock Silverado non-Trail Boss is. So in that case, you do want to make sure you're running an upper control arm.
I knew it was sitting higher than before.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, these things are for people, you know, adventurers in the dirt a little bit more often. These things can take a beating, but once again, they are a digressive shock, so a little bit firmer on the trail chatter, the easy stuff, the washboard. These probably won't feel the best. If you have a lot of washboard roads, you know, we typically shy away from a Bilstein or a digressive shock, but if that really doesn't matter and you solve that through lowering your PSI in your tires, this is such a good shock, because the one thing we forgot to mention was this 2.6-inch shock is priced better than the Fox 2.0 and the Eibach 2.0 shocks. So you're getting so much shock for what Bilstein is selling these for. That's really where this value comes in. You get a super beefy shock for 2.0 prices. So definitely keep that in mind, and that's why we are not converting, but so many people are thinking about a Fox 2.0 or an Eibach 2.0, and we're like, same price, you're gonna get a 2.6-inch shock instead. It's a good choice.
Bang for the buck.
Yeah, best bang for the buck for sure. Best shock for the dollar. Next, we have the Icon IFP 2.5 coilovers. And what IFP means is these are an internal floating piston, no reservoir. These Bilstein are also IFP. The rest of this up here are remote reservoirs, so it's a little bit different, and we'll get into that. But Icon's pricing, these start about $1,000, $1,100 for the pair, and then adding on reservoirs, adding on adjustable reservoirs. So these can go from about $1,000 a pair all the way up to around $1,700, $1,800 for the pair, depending on the feature set. These are probably closest in comparison to the Bilstein, but one thing that stands out from Icon across King and Fox, what they're typically compared against, is that they're a digressive shock. Some people like that, some people don't. most people don't understand it, what digressive kind of means, and we're going to talk about it now because it is one of the big things that sets Icon apart from both Fox and from King. Digressive meaning that it's firmer at the lower shaft speeds. And lower shaft speeds means on the pavement, on the trail, the easy stuff, driver input on turning this way or that way. That's where it's firmest. So that's where you're going to have a lot of just like immediate feedback, immediate control. Where these things really shine is when you start to really cycle that suspension, it gets really smooth. I always like to say digressive shocks are the faster you go, the smoother they get. And while we haven't had the Icons on the Silverado yet, we have been on the Bronco, your Tacoma, my Tacoma. I've been in a couple others.
F-150s.
Yeah. What's your general opinion on Icon and what it means for a truck as heavy as the Silverado?
Yeah, I mean, I think for half-ton trucks, these Icons they ride great. We had a set on a Power Boost, F-150 Power Boost, and I got to drive that around for a little bit, and they were super nice. The Power Boost came out of the factory super soft, and this was a huge upgrade over that. And that customer was extremely happy after his cross-country road trip.
Yeah.
So much so that on his second Power Boost that he bought another set of, I think, Stage 4 Icons.
There we go. That's the repeat buyers of the same thing is good.
Yeah, no, these I would say the Icons are probably most comparable to the Bilstein 6112s, the non-reservoir ones, but these are going to be fully rebuildable, and they have threaded bodies. They use a linear or flat ground spring, so spring rates are easily changed. That's kind of the benefit that you get with the Icon stepping up from the 6112, because you do go up in a little bit in price point.
Yeah, and when you add reservoirs, the feel gets a little bit softer, and then when you add adjustable reservoirs, the feel feels to me gets even softer. And their adjustable reservoirs really make a really big difference, and that's from 60,000 miles of experience with my own Icon equipped vehicle. So if you do a lot with your vehicle, if you're towing a lot, if you're overlanding a lot, those adjustable reservoirs make a huge difference from softening it up on the daily drive unloaded, long mountain roads, and you want to firm it up. A lot of good things I think come out of adjustable reservoirs, which is an option on the Icon setup. Out of all of this up here, Icon gets the worst rap online. They're the newest kind of out of all of these. They're doing something a little bit different with their digressive valving versus linear valving, linear. Bilstein's also digressive, but not as performance oriented as Icon is usually. Just as far as like product offering and what they've been, race level stuff, and Bilstein is more OE level stuff, if that makes sense. So lots of options here. Other good thing is they also make upper control arms. They make other components for a bunch of vehicles. So full comprehensive suspension systems is really where Icon shines, that Fox and King really can't touch them on. So big ups there, and a lot of good things about that.
Wait. Icon has the EXP series for these trucks now.
I totally forgot. Tell us about these.
So this is Icon's response to the Bilstein 6112s. Aluminum body though, instead of a steel body in the 6112s, but they do use these snap ring grooves to set and determine your ride height. Everything else about the shock is going to be fully rebuildable. Unlike the 6112s though, these do not come with the springs, so you do have to reuse your factory springs.
Gotcha. And your factory top mounts.
Yeah, and your factory top mounts.
Gotcha. So these have a aluminum body versus Bilstein's steel body. We haven't actually ran these ourselves, but very similar in terms of they're aiming for the same kind of damping as they are in their 2.5 coilovers, I'm sure, based on the same application, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Who would these be for then? That are quite a bit cheaper. I think they're about $600 or $700 for the pair versus $1,100 for the coilovers.
Yeah. So anybody that's looking to get a similar performance don't need extended travel, because I want to say the EXPs don't have an extended travel option like the coilovers do. And just want something that's going to be look cool, because these do kind of look nice.
They do look really nice. That's a great option. We'll make sure those get on the site really soon. Now we've got the big dog Fox 2.5 Performance Elite Series. These are brand new, not only for Fox, also of course for the Silverado, the 19 and up Silverados. Your 14 and 18 models and 07 and 13 models will not have these available, so sorry guys, but one of the beautiful things about these new shocks is it's an aluminum body, so really good heat dissipation when you start really ramping up speeds off-road. But the other big thing is the DSC adjuster on these reservoirs. This is your low speed adjuster and your high speed adjuster. And when we're talking about speeds, we're talking about shaft speeds of the shock, not vehicle speeds. So shaft speeds, and your low speed adjuster really affects driver input, turning, load handling on road, on trail. You can make it very firm, very soft, and then your high-speed adjuster on the big knob really affects those bigger hits. Also, going up driveways way too fast. Just those sudden, really big bumps that really force this shaft all the way into the body. And when you really start cycling the suspension pretty heavily, that's what this adjuster affects. And so make it soft, make it firm. It's really for the people that are going fast off-road, really. Otherwise, overkill for a daily rig that only sees the dirt once a month. We've been running these on the Bronco so far, and I like the sportier feel. Definitely the epitome of spending a lot of money and people thinking it should be a Cadillac ride, but no, Fox is really delivering a much firmer, in-control ride, delivering traction, delivering, the epitome of performance in my mind. You know what the vehicle is doing at all times. Have you had any experience here with the Performance Elite or Fox 2.5s in general? I think you were running 2.5s on your Tacoma, right?
Yeah, I have the Factory Race Series 2.5s on the Tacoma. Had that with stock width arms and the long travel arms. And I like the DSC adjusters. My biggest gripe with them is sometimes that high speed compression knob could be a little tough to turn sometimes.
Hey, this one is actually stuck.
But it's not the end of the world. You just got to break it loose once, and once you break it loose, you're good to go for the remainder of you having the shocks, and until you have to rebuild them. But I really like the 2.5 Performance Elite Series. Fox updated the seal head design, so it's like a dual O-ring seal in the seal head. It's just a little bit more robust, I feel like, than the older Factory Race Series seal heads. So that should prevent leaking a little bit better.
Nice.
The other thing is the aluminum bodies are now just kind of one piece instead of having a steel body with an aluminum end cap. That just makes for a little bit cleaner of a look and a little bit nicer package for sure.
Yeah, I think these are really, really geared towards what the trends we've been seeing the past few years of overlanders, people doing a lot of stuff with their vehicles, and that's where the adjusters really come into play.
Yeah, being able to dial in your high speed and your low speed compression independently is big, and that was my reason for going with the Fox DSCs in the first place. Was at the time they were the only ones that allowed for those adjustments.
Yeah, when we were playing with the adjustments on the Bronco, I could definitely tell a difference with the high-speed adjuster more than the low-speed adjuster, but we didn't test extensively. But high-speed adjuster definitely makes a big difference on those hard hits, those really big surprises off-road. I like to run everything full firm myself, just because I don't care about comfort. I care about my vehicle staying planted in the dirt. But for those of you that want to play with the adjustments or have kind of a shock that does it all, this is a good option because the range of adjustment really affects such a wide range of performance and just overall feel to your vehicle. Next we've got the Fox 2.5 Factory Series, and the Factory Series has been around for much longer than the Performance Elite. Factory Series is a steel body. These also come in that $2,200 for the DSC version and about $400 to $500 less for the non-DSC version. These are actually we're about to outfit these with the DSC adjusters. Steel body, still threaded, a little bit of a different internal designs. Internals have changed a little bit on the Performance Elites versus Factory Series, but that's not really a concern, mainly because these are only available 07 and 18 models, and the 19 and up models only see the Performance Elite. So you really don't have a choice if you're in the 07 to 18 GM range, you got to run these. In our experience on 2.5 factory series, very sporty, very firm, sometimes too firm, but if you like to run a hard off-road, these are the jam. These are meant to be pushed hard. I would say they're probably a little less forgiving on road than something like a King shock. You know, that's our opinion. You can tune these. I know there's going to be a bunch of keyboard warriors saying, but it's all about the tune, and we definitely agree. We can take these things apart, change the tuning a little bit to make it more comfortable, more forgiving on road. You ran these on your Tacoma. How did those feel? Talk about that experience.
So definitely firmer than 6112s on like a comparable truck that I've driven. Firmer than the Kings, but supportive, and I could push hard off-road. I was able to push hard off-road. I would say a lot of people might complain about how stiff they are or how firm they are, but I mean, for me, it was just, I like them. And yeah, tuning is a big thing. And that, after getting them revalved, I did notice a little bit more comfort out of them. You did mention that we are putting DSC adjusters on these. I would say if you are looking at these factory series, spend extra money. If you think you're going to want DSC adjusters, now spend that extra money now, because it is a lot more expensive to get DSC adjusters on these afterwards.
To retrofit, yep. The tuning thing is a big factor. That's something, definitely reach out to us and we can kind of walk through any options that you guys might be considering in there. Now we've got the coveted blue shocks, King shocks. These are the 2.5s, and if you're here, if you've even been researching shocks, you probably know about King shocks, right? What does this mean? These are about $3,600 for the set of all four, so very similar to your Performance Elite, very similar to all the rest of these here. A lot of people talk, nothing rides like a King, and why is that? You know, from my experience so far, these are typically softer and more forgiving out of the box than something like a Fox or something like, definitely softer than Bilstein, noticeably different than Icon as well. These are, you know, more forgiving, but they really settle into their prime, that mid-speed support, meaning, you know, you're going fast off-road, you're not doing too much crazy stuff, you're not doing too much whoops. 2.5s cannot handle whoops by themselves. They could probably handle whoops with external bump stop support, but don't think that just because you're bolting these on your truck, you can go keep up with the big guys. They can certainly do a lot. They're excellent shocks, but if you're going to be going hard off-road, just know these things got a 90-day warranty. These things are made for performance. You keep all of that in mind when you're out there in the dirt and you're playing hard. If you just want a beautiful set of shocks on your daily driven rig, then of course, by all means, go ahead and pick a set of these up. But these are overkill for a lot of potential customers out there. What's been your opinion? What's been your experience on Kings in general? We haven't ran them on your truck yet, but I know you've been in other vehicles with them.
There are adjustments if you don't like messing around with adjusters, or if you're not sure what low speed and high speed compression adjustments do. Kings use a nice mid-range adjuster, and it's a pretty wide adjustment range. So that makes it a little bit easier for you to dial in comfort and just handling with them. Personally, not my color, but if you are willing to wait and you want to order a set through us, we can get them different colors through King.
Yep, could change the blue on top, change the blue springs, the silver Eibach springs you guys were mentioning really look really nice on here. A set of Cerakoted Kings with some silver springs is pretty hot. My experience with Kings is that I basically have ran two different sets on the Ram, been in numerous Forerunners with Kings, a couple Tacomas with Kings. Very forgiving on the easy stuff, more forgiving just on the easy chatter, trail chatter, daily driven rigs. Very comfortable there. Like I said, they settle into their prime handling zone when that suspension starts to cycle, and that's very similar to Icon, very similar to Fox. All of these performance shocks are really trying to do the same thing, and that's provide a lot of handling when that suspension starts to really cycle. It's not to take the really hard hits like you see on big whoops and whatnot, but it's really that middle of the road, about as hard as you should take these kind of vehicles. You know, I think we really typically top out at 60, 70 miles an hour in our own daily driven rigs out there in JV and off-road stuff before, you know, you need a roll cage before you start risking any more. But these Kings can hang the same as these Foxes can hang, and same thing as these Icon can hang. Where it really makes a really big difference is daily driven, softer out of the box, more forgiving. If you're a stickler for longevity, these things 90-day warranty, and then you're screwed and you got to rebuild them yourself. Like you mentioned before, you get a free revalve on your Kings. If you buy them from us, you don't like them, we'll get them retuned, whether you want them softer, whether you want them firmer for more high-speed action.
Yeah, I will say, if you like to tinker on your own things at home, the Kings are the easiest shocks that we've rebuilt, or the easiest shocks to rebuild out of everything here.
Oh, nice. Why is that?
Just the way they taper the shafts on the top to slide that seal head in. The seals are easier to get in and out.
That seems like the King Shocks way, where they're really known for custom shocks. They got thousands of parts to make custom shocks, and so if you need something a little bit longer, if you need a different top cap, usually that's not the case on OE vehicles like the Silverado and others. Huge racer support, huge custom just build support. The King also has a 3.0 option, similar to Icon's got a 3. Does Icon have a 3.0 option?
No, Fox does though.
Fox does have a 3.0 option as well. So the shocks do get bigger beyond here, but that's outside the scope of this guide. I'm actually a big fan of King. I was pretty anti-King for a while just because everyone else was so all about King. The blue's not my favorite, but you know, I can't deny that the comfort matched with the performance on the Ram, a heavy vehicle like the Silverado. I mean, I'm a big fan now. I really like them a lot. They haven't failed me. I haven't seen any premature leaking, and very, very predictable for the kind of driving I do. I would say that these are actually sometimes too soft for some people. It's funny is sometimes we hear that it's too soft for heavier vehicles, and then some people that buy them, they're like way too firmer than they were expecting for a $3,500 shock package. So, you know, all of these shocks, not just Kings, you got to really understand what you're getting into. You're getting into performance, and performance doesn't mean Cadillac ride. Performance means confidence, control, traction, stability, and all of these shocks on the table here kind of provide that in their own way. If you have any questions on any of these, hit us up in the comments and we'll continue kind of answering you guys. The other elephant in the room is when and when not to run upper control arms. We've got the SBC arms here. We've got the Icon billet aluminum arms here. Man, the price range on this is significant. At the very low end, you've got Chinese imported arms. You've got Zone off-road arms at about $450, $500 for a pair, all the way up to, you know, $1,400, $1,500 for Icon's Delta joints, billet arms, and, you know, middle of the road SPC arms. SPC extremely popular for their adjustability. Icon's only adjustable arm are their Delta joint arms, and that adjustment is made through these Heim joints. But talk to us about adjustment. Like, what does it mean for the vehicle, alignment, and that sort of thing?
So on the adjustable arms like these SPCs, you're going to be able to adjust your camber and your caster, which is going to be the position of the ball joint on the top spindle, independently from your factory alignment cams on the truck. On the Icon Delta joints, where it's Heim inners, so those you're able to adjust your camber and your caster by moving those Heims in or out on opposite ends. Are they necessary? I mean, I wouldn't say they're necessary, but when you go into this higher end, it is necessary to have upper control arms. They just don't have to be an adjustable upper control arm. When you have an aftermarket upper control arm, they have some camber and caster corrections already built into them. On my truck, we actually have the Bilstein upper control arms, which are pretty new. And you just want to make sure you have that built-in camber and caster correction that the aftermarket upper control arms give you, so that you're not maxing out your cams on your factory alignment cams on your truck. It'll just extend the longevity of that. In addition to alignment, you're just going to have better performance. The suspension is going to be a little more free. Your ball joint angles, you have way better increased ball joint angles with an aftermarket UCA versus a OEM UCA to take advantage of the extended travel that you're going to be getting from the coilovers.
Yep, because when that suspension droops all the way out, like on on a jump, for instance, your arms go from normal ride height here all the way down to here, and without an extended upper control arm, your stock arms will basically make contact with that coil spring at full droop. So that's one requirement, not even just a benefit of new arms. So when you start pushing it to 2.5 inches of lift, 3 inches certainly. We always recommend, if you're doing 2.5 inches of lift on any of these systems and you're off-road a lot, grab arms. If you're doing 2.5 inches of lift on any of these and you're not really doing much performance off-road, these are kind of optional. We'd still recommend them. But if you're going to 3 inches of lift, you definitely need these just so you don't mess up your springs and your factory arms, and you're most likely going to need something like this to get it aligned anyways. Icon's delta joint is very similar to a normal ball joint like you see on the SBC, and also gives you kind of the range and strength of a uniball that you typically see on kind of older and newer Total Chaos arms, Camberg arms, and the uniball was really an off-road specific ball joint for maximum performance, maximum strength, where that arm is just freaking flying through the desert, can take a beating, but also requires very extensive maintenance, meaning you got to lube up that ball joint quite a bit because there's nothing preventing debris and dirt from getting into that joint and really crusting it up and ruining it. So the delta joint is a sealed joint, high strength, but also pretty significant angles for that allow maximum droop travel in your suspension. So I hope we covered everything on UCAs there. But like I said, do you need a $1,500 UCA, or can you really go with a $600 SPC, $700 SPC? We sell these things like hotcakes because forged, high strength, adjustability, really everything you need. Really nice package just overall, right?
Yep.
Thanks guys for watching up until this point. We know that was a bunch. Good news is if you got a Silverado, you got a lot of options. Bad news is you've got so many options. Hit us up in the comments down below with any question you have on your specifics, and we'd love to answer. You can also email us, support@shocksurplus.com, and of course we're gonna answer you and help you along the way. We've actually done reviews on your Silverado already, right? On
Yep.
Which ones are that?
We have the quick lifts up, we have the Eibachs up in the fireside chat, and then we have the 5100s up as well.
Yep, and the Bilsteins, yep, for all that. So this Silverado's done everything. We've reviewed a bunch of stuff, so reach out to us, shocksurplus.com, and thank you so much for your attention, and we will see you on the trail.